Alright, let's get started. We're going to go down that way. So Legend, you can introduce yourself first.
Hello, I am Legendary Elite. I am a producer with the show, and I help out backstage.
I am Lottie Olive West. I'm a performer. I performed at Anime Central, Anime Magic, TeslaCon, Anime Crossroads, Anime Milwaukee, DerbyCon, and a few others that I'm just not thinking of right now. Performing at cons is just something that I never thought I would do because I was super sheltered as a kid and I wasn't allowed to consume a lot of popular media. So it's kind of wild that this is what I do most of the time.
And I'm everybody's favorite mistake, Haichu. I am one of the producers for this show. I also was your host this weekend, but if you guys couldn't tell, I do a little bit of everything. The rest of our performers who were here this weekend send their dearest, deepest sympathies that they could not be here, but a lot of them have a very long drive back to Ohio or back to another pageant or another gig, so you're stuck with us. But we can still answer all the questions regardless.
We had one darling performer who came here right after a gig, and was it Cleveland?
Yeah, they were at Fan Expo. They literally came from Fan Expo to here. They said Zenkaikon's better, so.
Shout out to y'all. Y'all made us feel very welcome and loved, and I love it so much. So this is kind of space for y'all to be able to ask questions to us for like, how do you get into drag? How do you get into con drag? How do you do stage presence? And like making it accessible.
Shoes, makeup, wigs.
Accessibility on stage. How do you produce a show? How do you even like make your own show? A lot of times, like, we're people's first drag show for the most part, so please, by all means, this is like a fountain of wisdom for you guys to be able to talk to. So we'll open the floor up, just raise your hand. Just like this. If not, we'll just kiki. Yeah.
So like, how did you guys wind up meeting each other and like getting to you know, each of you sort of becoming a group?
Yeah.
Well, I first applied like back in 2018 to do a show for Anime Crossroads, and they cast me. It was my first time ever coming up with an actual cosplay, and I was really excited, and I was nervous. It was my first con ever, and then I never stopped.
I've been in the troupe for a while, and we were performing at a Ohio con up in the northern area, where I met this lovely cryptid down here, Haichu. We had them come in and perform with us. We love them so much that we just decided to keep them and then promote them.
Yeah. Would you believe that the first time I ever met a Bubblepop member, I was very, very drunk in their hotel room?
Yes, I would believe that.
That's fair. That's a fair assumption because that's what happened. And then I was like, if you ever need a performer, and then at AUSA I started performing with them, and then I was promoted, like Legend said. But I had done literally like 2 cons before that, where I was like a kitten for one, and the other con was like a kink convention, so like it wasn't the same. So it was like a really cool experience to graduate on.
And I just got promoted to being a producer right before this show, so this is my first show as a producer.
And they're doing a wonderful job.
If you saw the banner,
I said she's sliving.
if you saw the banner or the business cards, Lottie did design those.
I like pink.
That's how we did it. Seeing people out of paint and in paint is like one of the most wild experiences for people because 90% of the time, like when we're on stage, we're like, yeah, and then the second we're off stage, we're like,
We're little gremlins.
I tried to keep my makeup on so that you could like recognize me, but I still was like in the dealer's hall and somebody was like flipping through my book of prints and they're like, oh, I saw her perform. I'm like, that's me. Hi.
shape-shifting. Any other questions that people may have? No.
It's me, Lottie Owens.
Yep.
How do you get into this stuff?
How do we do it?
How do you
Well, I actually got into
For
performing
beginners, how do you get into
accidentally.
Oh, sorry. Oh, what were you saying?
for beginners, how do you like drag beginner technique? How you get
Beginner's drag.
Yeah.
how you put yourself out there?
Yeah. There's a lot of, in your town, depending on the town, there's, you want to look at your gay spaces. A lot of times it's bars, so it's harder if you're somebody that's under the age of 18, but luckily we have incredible internet spaces where you can start to develop, watch videos, and figure out what you want your performer styles really look like. But if you are over the age of 18 or 21, you can start going to those shows, taking a look around, starting to get to introduce yourself to other performers. And a lot of times they do have competition shows, or they have shows that are aimed at beginners and newbies, and signing up for them and keeping in contact with the people that kind of facilitate those spaces is going to be your best way to get in. It sucks because sometimes you don't want to introduce yourself and you don't want to like put out that crazy face when you're going out. But honestly, it's the best way to make those connections. Seeing people that have styles similar to what you really, really want to do, and kind of making the conversation, like I'm always willing to like pop into DMs with people if they're being respectful and give them any kind of insight or like tips or ideas that they might want if I am somebody that they're like really interested in like being like. And as long as they're respectful, I will answer questions. It might take me a while because I text like an old person, but yeah.
There's also like, even with like, because of lockdown and because of the pandemic, we really had to start focusing ourselves onto an online presence, and online presence does matter. So making that TikTok or making that Instagram that's devoted to your
Congress doesn't take away TikTok.
If Congress doesn't take away TikTok, Tumblrs, Facebooks, it's really weird, but most venue book people operate through Instagram or Facebook. So having those really helps. If you have your team down, record it. Even if you don't have full paint and you don't have the full costume, record it in your living room, your basement, the park, get your friend to get you, because if you apply online and you have a video, they'll consider it.
And get yourself a performer email of, even if it's not the name you think you're going to stick with for a while, get something that you can put in those forms or send to people so that you have a space where all of that's going to go through, because a lot of times you might miss something, you might not see it. You want to make sure that it's always going to that specific email.
We hope that helps. Any other questions? Or we're just gonna keep talking about getting started in the community. Also, like being willing to kitten, being willing to flex. Sometimes you're not gonna be the first person on the stage. Sometimes they're gonna say, hey, not right now, but we would love to have you be like a dollar dolly, or we would love to have you be like a wrangler and like getting like clothes off the stage and doing stagehand setup. That's backstage etiquette.
Or working the door. That's also a super important thing, to make sure that people got their tickets, or if the show has any specific like requirements or anything like that you're keeping them in check. Because in Chicago, all the shows we do, you have to show your vaccination card, and the door person has to make sure that everybody purchased their tickets and shows off their vaccination card.
And backstage etiquette matters. It matters saying your P's and Q's, and being a mean girl, like how there are on like a lot of new queens and royalty and kings will often see how RuPaul's Drag Race is and how they're super shady and super mean. That's not a thing anymore. Everyone in this industry are all professionals, and we treat each other with respect, and we respect each other's art, because art comes in many different shapes and sizes. So, like how we are, we had a bunch of different performers of all types of varieties and walks of life come through the doors, and every single one was art at the end of the day. Whether it was your fave or not, it was art. And backstage etiquette matters, using your P's and Q's, being nice to the people who are around you, just leading with kindness, because like, you don't know what people are going through. Someone may have had like the worst day of their lives before walking in backstage, and like just extending that kindness and granting that grace really does do a lot, especially for producers. I want to work with nice people.
At the end of the day, when I'm producing, I produce back in Chicago a lot. When I produce, I would 220% take somebody who is nice and fun to be around backstage, that is respectful and not like just a kind person, over somebody that's a diva but is an absolutely incredible performer. Like, it's really, like, I would rather take a good person over a great performer.
Backstage morale is really important. It's going to bring up the energy, for the next person to go on stage. And if you're feeling jittery, or maybe somebody who is being catty backstage got in your head, you're not going to be able to give your best performance. So why not build each other up in our space?
and like this is a competitive field that's filled with, to this day, is filled with like drag humor is built off the backs of women and at the expense of women. And that is something that we are trying to break, especially as we're getting older. Like, using the term a fishy queen, like that is so transphobic to say. Like, that is so awful. So we don't say those words anymore. We don't say things like what you would see on like RuPaul's Drag Race season 5, which is why bringing them back, they're talking about it more, but having that etiquette and that knowledge of knowing like morale matters and being kind and not making jokes at the expense of another person matters. That's why we are so selective about like who we cast and why we cast, because we want to make sure that we're putting up people that someone could look at on any stage at any moment and be like, that looks like me, they look like me, they dance like me, they do their makeup like me, they have the same disabilities as I do. That's part of what Bubblepop's modem is that drag and burlesque is for every single person. As long as you can put yourself on a stage, baby, you can be a star.
And it's also super important to know, like, when you're casting a show that's for a convention is a weekend-long situation. People are going to be sharing rooms, that kind of thing. You know, being respectful is like really paramount to what we're doing when we're casting people. You know, we want people that are going to be not only like great on stage and great representing like all of the people at the convention, we also want them to be somebody that is cool to hang out with.
Yeah, because we do be shits, we do be snakes, we do be on top of each other in those hotels.
We do.
There's only one mirror and there's 5 of us, so we're all on top of each other. More questions, if anyone has any questions about drag burlesque or getting in, yes, Barbara. You can project, use your outside voice.
Okay, I'm a major in costume design and technology, and I've specifically been really interested in getting into designing and creating clothing for drag. Do you have any resources or good ways to start kind of contacting and creating those connections to do that?
Are you trying to be like a commissioner, or do you want to do like housework? Do you want to do like work with a troupe? Do you want to just be like a freelance commissioner?
Freelance commissioner, mostly.
So my recommendation for that, because my friend just graduated from Made Institute in Philly and does commission work, make an Instagram, photograph everything, make your costumes, get into cosplay pages too, and be like, hey, I'm making like drag safe performance things, especially at conventions. There are so many people who ruin their costumes, because they're not drag safe, and you have to like keep buying parts, and like I will give the money to have somebody who is dedicated to making a costume that is not only looks accurate to the character, but I can move in it and not have to worry about like my seam just ripped.
And follow them on Instagram, like their stuff, so that they know that you're there, they'll show up in your algorithm more. And, you know, like if I was scrolling through my Instagram and this person kept liking my stuff pretty consistently, I might go check out their page, see your stuff. I love giving money to costumers because I work a full-time job and then I do this on the weekends, and it's a lot. So I don't really have the time to make my own stuff, but soon, we'll see.
Damex, you had a question. Are you Roxas? Slay.
Yeah.
2 blondes.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah, so, so I've been interested in drag for a very long time. We're actually friends with Volky.
Yay!
So, yeah. And Volky, like, we reconnected over the weekend. They're like, yeah, I can get you into the Philly scene. Because I'm AFAB, so for the longest time I was like, yeah, Philly's not really cool with AFAB people, even if I don't always identify as a woman. I'm gender fluid, non-binary. But, like, I guess my biggest thing is like, all right, well, now I have an opening potentially to kind of get into the scene. My thing is, I have no formal dance training. I have a history of ankle injuries and stuff. Did you guys ever struggle, like, wearing a lot of the costuming? Because, like, I love high heels and everything else.
Did you come to the drag show today?
I did not get it.
Well, like I was about to say, I'm somebody who has a dance training, but I still messed up my ankle right on stage. It's just, you know. But there are so many performers that aren't necessarily dancers that slay. You don't, there's so many spoken word pieces you could do too. a lot of drag can just be delivering. You know, it's your delivery. You don't have to be ABT ballet dancer to command an audience.
I think there's this impression, because like, so they went to the drag show yesterday. There was like, I guess, people being pulled up on the stage, and they were even like, I don't know if you could have beat the person that won, because they were just an incredible dancer. And
They just entered the room.
They literally just went through the room. Soleil.
But that's where I'm just like, all right, but I really identify a lot with like, I'm kind of like a mix between like, you know, the Ariana Grande type like bulkies fish drag, but also like campy queens, you know, like Jinx Monsoon, Ben de la Creme, like I'm right there.
So that falls into my wheelhouse particularly, because something that I advocate for often is that you don't need to wear high heels to be a drag person. I wear platform boots because I cannot dance in high heels. I have too many leg injuries from over the years, and like I don't have a lot of like training for dance outside of ballet. But ballet isn't how I do drag. It's all about how you command a stage, like Lottie said, and like I'm a camp kind of person, baby. It never compare your drag to somebody else's. And I know I heard you talking earlier with the previous panel about mental illness, and I have the same neurodivergency as you, and it's really hard for us to look at another person, especially someone that we like see on stage and idolize, and like, but like that's what makes you different. If they wanted to have another, like, if they wanted another Bulky, they would have casted another Bulky. They would have just casted Bulky. If they wanted to cast Lottie, they would have casted Lottie. They want you for you, you know?
I guess this is hard because it's like, you know, I'm like on the spectrum, so I have ADHD, I'm borderline personality, I'm also on this, like, the autism spectrum, so it's just like this weird combination of neurodivergencies, and I'm also dealing with like, people don't think, you're so used to hearing you're not talented, you're not good enough in your life, and so it's just like, what? It's so affirming, like, there's that inherent feeling when I put on these boots and everything else, and I put on makeup, it's like my armor. And I got so used to, I have an older sister who's like amazingly attractive, and being compared to that my whole life, it's like, I finally feel attractive. I feel like I can conquer the world. I feel like I could be Laganja Estrada jumping off stage for a lip sync battle, like hardcore. Now I know I can't, but.
Well, it's not saying I can't, it's what can I do to get there, because I never learned how to do chair stuff, and I did a backflip off of a chair earlier today, and like,
You can learn at any age.
You can learn at any age. People are always doing classes, and like one of the wisest pieces of advice I have ever been given in this industry was someone else's opinion of me is not my place to know. If they want me to know their opinion, they're gonna tell me. And I need to be at peace with that, because if you don't, then you allow yourself to be ruled, and it's so hard when you are neurodivergent and struggling with that, because like we're in an industry where people, like, inherently, for a very long time, it was run off of being catty and being told that you're not talented, and it's a lot of self-affirmation, but we are breaking that stigma. We are breaking that foothold that was there for such a long time, and that's why Bubblepop means so much to me, because, like, you can do anything you set your heart to, and your art is valid, and I will say that many times. No matter what it is, your art is valid. It does not matter if you are like Bulky or like Lottie or like you're a camp queen. You are your own entity of art, and it's up to you to make yourself have that presence, you know? Your audience feeds off of your energy. So if you're going out there already nervous, the audience will know. And that's why, like, whenever we mess up, we're always like, smile, roll it out. Just smile and like make a pose, laugh about it, or like even if you can't smile and you trip real bad, just lay on the floor and just like wiggle around. Like, just make it fun, like have fun with it.
And you'll be surprised to know that most performers have some sort of neurodivergence. When you're backstage, everybody is neurodivergent. They all have their own thing, and they're all trying their darndest. So you're not alone, if that helps.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Legend.
We believe in you.
Yeah, we believe in you. You got it.
You had a question next.
Yeah, how do you, because you kept saying character earlier, how do you differentiate, I'm not saying that correctly, how do you compare the two, your real self to your character? How do you keep it like separate, or do you not even do that?
I know I keep it separate. I mean, we can all go down the line and just say how like our personalities are different than we are.
Much like the armor comment from getting into boots and your cosplay, having worked on stage before for the other entertainment shows we offer, as soon as I get up those steps, it shuts off for me, and then I'm able to just focus on my choreography, hit my beats, interact with the audience, and then as soon as I'm back off, I have immediate stage blindness. I did it. Okay, crowd's cheering. That's a good thing. Awesome.
I've been performing in musical theater since I've probably been about 4 years old, but I've always been a chubby person, and I've always been plus sized, and my body dysmorphia and my personal struggle with how I look in the mirror has been something that's really affected my personality. My first college kind of gave me some PTSD about who I was as a performer, but when I go on stage as Lottie, I am ultra confident, ultra sexy, ultra fun, ultra high energy. I get to have this part of me, the part of me that I want to be, and I'm able to kind of channel that when I'm on stage as Lottie. And when I get off stage, yeah, I might still have my insecurities and I might still have my anxiety, but I know that there is that part of me, and I know that she's just in reach if I need her. So
I know for me, the difference between performing and not performing for me is I was always shamed growing up for being weird and being unusual. I was the first trans person out in my school ever, to the point where nobody knew what pronouns were when I was in school, but I was coming out and saying I want to use they, them, him, and having this persona of me that is every single thing that I was ever bullied for, making weird faces, having big eyes, being Asian, being neurodivergent, being trans, and just knowing that I am doing something for somebody else who was probably in my shoes at one, now or at some point. That is what separates me from Haichu, is that Haichu is what I want to be every day, but I don't have the emotional energy to do that. So sometimes I am the low key and I speak in a really low voice, but then when I'm on stage, it's wow, everyone's so good. And it's about utilizing those spoons, because when I'm on stage, I'm representing someone and I'm representing myself, and hopefully I am inspiring someone that you should be proud of every single aspect of yourself, and that you're always a working piece.
you had a question.
Yeah, kind of going off of what we've been talking about of developing your character, developing your talents, focusing on what you're good on, working on what maybe you are intimidated by. I guess I'm just curious, what kind of exercises, and not just physical exercises, but maybe performance exercises, vocal exercises, regimens, training things, do each of you use to kind of improve your performance, improve your character? And do you have any recommendations for the audience of general programs, if you want to be a camp queen, or if you want to be a good live singer, or if you want to be a good lip syncer, or you want to have physical practice, what would you recommend based on your experiences?
For me personally, when it comes to speaking, I'll do diction exercises, etc., or focus on that. However, when it comes to dance and movement, which is more my wheelhouse, I'll just scour the internet for different music videos, different types of dance, ranging from crunk to the industrial stuff you saw those kids doing under the bridge wearing Hot Topic pants, to shuffling, and figure out what feels fun for me, and then incorporate it in a way that I think moves fluidly.
I'd say for me, it's education is always happening. I take voice lessons. I power lift, so that was something that I never thought I'd be into, because I've always been a very artsy kid, and I always thought the gym was for jocks, and I've never been a jock, so I started seeing a personal trainer, and she has a very similar view on body positivity that I do, and that's very helpful because I'm able to like, I'm so sorry, I'm like, that'd be great, yeah, I'm like super dry. Thank you. But when I'm at the gym, I'm thinking about my muscles and like what I need to power myself in order to get through a performance. I'm also pretty regularly taking dance classes. There's usually adult dance classes in a lot of major cities. Sometimes they're harder to find, sometimes you could find them in the park district. They're fun and they're not really trying to like make you into this professional dancer. You don't have to go in there being like, oh my gosh, everybody's gonna be judging you. They're all gonna be thinking about that. It's not like that. It's about the love of the art, and it's about finding those moments of joy and movement and then incorporating them into the performance style that you like to do. And just kind of making sure that you're always open for new experiences.
I know for me, because I'm kind of a jack of all trades and I do a lot of things, for like being a live singer, you can always take some music classes. There are online music classes too that help you, and like vocal coaches that like, they're not gonna make you sound, like they're not gonna sit there and be like, all right, and now you must sing an aria in G flat. They're gonna be like, okay, so I heard that you were singing this way, so imagine like you're holding a balloon underwater and they're gonna help you get that range. For comedy and like doing camp and stuff like that, watch movies. I watch a lot of movies and like every type of movie, and I'm like, oh, I think this would be really funny if it happened this way, so what if I did that on stage? And that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from. Like, Lottie has seen some of the auditions that I've put in for troops where I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I wanna be a bumblebee. Here's my music. And I will come out with some of the weirdest, funniest things that you'll see, and it's just like being able to let your creative side loose, and like how can you incorporate different aspects, different elements. Yeah, like Lucy LaDuca once said, let loose, baby, let loose. Next question. Oh, what? Let's go to our wiener first, and then we'll pop right over to you.
Being able to work with you guys and learn a little bit more about you guys personally, and I know that you guys love to inspire other people and to uplift other people. But my question for you is, what experience have you had that has inspired you, that's helped you keep going and keep your head up being in the drag industry?
I have no idea. I've only entertained it. I don't drag personally.
I think, well, I've done a few different, like before I started doing convention drag, I performed in a few different spaces in Chicago, and I had a lot of self-conscious issues about it, being an AFAB person, and like feeling like I wasn't enough because I am somebody who identifies as a woman, and I struggled a lot with that, like kind of this like, oh, I'm not like everybody else on the stage who's got more to offer because they're more impressive in their transformation, or they're doing something different that I'm not doing. But then I got to work with my friend Oriana Perone. She does also a lot of drag at different conventions, and she just brought me in and she's like, am I allowed to say the B word?
Let's just say it's an unkind B word.
B, you are talented. That's why I put you in this show. Stupid. Because Oriana Perone likes to make fun of their friends. That's how they exist. And they're very, very sweet, but they also make fun of you, but in a very loving way. And I think that kind of gave me this like, oh, I guess I can do this too. I'm not a failure, and I'm not like less than everybody else who's on stage. I am doing my own performance, and I'm bringing my own performance style to this very interesting and eclectic lineup.
I'm gonna be real with y'all. Money inspires. I'm just kidding.
In this industry?
I love money.
Something that inspires me every day is like knowing that I can comfortably go home every day and say, I'm not like any other person you're ever gonna get on this field, and that's okay. And like, sometimes it's not for everyone, and like, being able to like, I'm trying to like think of the words, because I am like, whoa, I was talking a lot today. Something that really inspires me is my friends and the people I work with backstage. Like, I love watching people perform, especially when I'm backstage. You will hear me, I'm like, yes, that's them, I love them! Because that's what inspires me. I love artists just being artists and like shooting ideas off of each other and riffing off of each other. Like, what if we did this? Or what if we did this? Or like, let's do a halftime game like this. Like, whoa, I just absolutely love, I'm so inspired by my friends. Like, everyone who was on this cast are very dear and dear friends of mine, and like, I'm just so inspired by them every day. Just everything that they're doing, amazing. I wanted to be like them and be inspirations like that. Over there with the pink.
Hi, so I want to go over the context before I ask the question. I'm a senior in high school, and last year when I was a junior, we held a drag show for like our GSA club, and although it was our third annual one, it got a lot of backlash from like the conservative parents in the districts and everything. Eventually got shut down, and so I went to the board meeting that, you know, most of the people voiced their concerns about the issue and everything, and they said some pretty nasty stuff about not only the advisors that organized the event, but also the performers themselves. And I spoke in defense of the drag queens because I'm the vice president of that club, and so I also do drag myself. And this year I'm in AP art for my senior year, and the theme I chose for my art to be centered around is drag. And so throughout the beginning of the semester, we had to make a web of what we wanted to explore in like different aspects of what we wanted to depict. And so I like narrowed it down to like 3 things. It was my personal drag, its negative stigma, and its positive stigma. And I was basically wondering if there would be any topics you think that I should, you know, sort of express in my pieces that I feel like need to be talked about, especially with a lot of the political stuff that's happening right now and the stuff that's, you know, being passed around with people in power.
I can definitely talk about this because I am somebody who uses my platform whenever I can to talk whenever I can about what I can. Compliance, just saying that you're an ally and not lifting a finger to help when you are somebody who is inherently benefiting off of the community is not enough anymore. You need to be taking action, and I think that needs to be talked about in the drag community more, because there are so many people who are like, oh my god, Black Lives Matter, oh my god, abortion rights, but they're not doing anything. Saying it is one thing, doing something is another. And I think that needs to be talked about more, and also talking about in the drag community the inherent transphobia that we have, how drag kings do not make nearly as much as drag queens, but they get hypersexualized and treated a lot worse. Talking about how, again, drag humor was made off the backs of making fun of women. There are so many jokes that just should not be made, and those are things that you need to advocate for, especially as like up-and-coming drag performers. And that's something that we try really hard to like not do, is we don't make those jokes. We don't do those kinds of things. We treat everybody with respect that they deserve, and we take action. And like telling people to go vote. Just saying that, oh, we're working on it isn't enough. We need to see a plan. Because right now, everything is being taken away from us, and it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, which is why you, as the people coming up getting ready to vote, need to be registering to vote. I don't care if it's for an interim election, I don't care if it's for a layover, you need to be at those polls and you need to be voting every single time.
Can I interject real quick? School board elections. Show up for your school board elections. That's how a lot of these conservatives that are attacking our LGBTQ community are taking over now. They're not even focusing on larger national races like that. They're going to school boards. That's what Ron DeSantis is doing right now down in Florida.
And I just want to piggyback.
I would also interject. There's one thing I learned recently. Like, while I'm voting, I tend to vote Democratic, but I was originally set up as an independent. And as an independent, you cannot vote in primaries in a lot of areas. Like, you can't just go in and be like, well, I'm just going to vote for these bills. Democratic primary, they'll be like, no, you can't do it, you're an independent. So it's like, as much as I would love independence to take over, sometimes it's like you kind of have to get, I mean, as much, and I hate the whole like lesser evil thing, but it's like, you kind of have to go for the lesser evil sometimes, and then go for the lesser, you keep doing it until you get the better people in place.
I like to think about it as infiltrating from the inside. So, like, even if you're like, oh, I don't completely agree with everything that's happening, it's at least I'm putting my opinion out there and I can actually make those decisions. But I did want to say one more thing about drag for your project. I think that it's also super important to discuss personal expression as well as body diversity. A lot of like plus size performers don't get the same amount of respect as their skinny counterparts. You know, like we still don't have like any really like plus size queens tend to get kind of clowned on when it comes to like the national stage, and it's something that also translates over to cis women, AFAB women, femme presenting people, or any kind of femme presenting human being. That's something that we see. We see when you're making, like when everybody makes fun of fat people, we all know. Like, and it doesn't help when it happens in drag, and it's like also this other exclusive club where everybody's like, oh, you have to be so snatched, so skinty. That doesn't make you feel good. Or when you're backstage with somebody who's like, oh my god, I look so fat today, and then you're like, well, screw my drag then. I'm just gonna go eat 3 donuts. See you later, you know? So body diversity, I think, is something that's really important in drag and drag performance.
And accessibility. Accessibility is something that I have been like recently fighting for a lot as somebody who is neurodivergent and like has accessibility needs. There are so many like high heels, having to wear high heels, having to wear contacts, having to wear lashes, wigs, having to do certain things. Like you need to be death dropping and doing cartwheels to be like a real drag person. Some people just can't do that, and like the backstage areas are loud, and like there's no good way to like being on that stage is like an adrenaline rush. And the second that you get off, it just is immediate anxiety crash, and like having quiet spaces for performers to decompress or be able to like, if they're overstimmed, they can go somewhere that's not having to step outside where everyone is smoking cigarettes. Like having that accessibility and like not having the expectation that every drag queen needs to be wearing 6-inch stilettos, needs to be doing handstands, needs to be doing cartwheels. Like I can't do that kind of stuff. My knees are bad, and like having that accessibility being talked about more, and like some queens are allergic to makeup, and that doesn't make you any less beautiful. Like look at Sasha Velour. Homie never wears a wig, and she is still gorgeous because she is saying something about her art. So beauty comes in multiple different stages and is accessible to all.
Yes.
I would like to go back to as you were saying about how, yes, there is a lot of hate, not like within the same community, like the drag community, drag queens and kings hating on other drag queens and kings, which is not okay. And I feel like that also happens a lot, not only in the drag community, but just LGBT, BLM, body positive, all that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like people are part of that community and they're part of that family, yet they will continue to do and say hurtful things, but they will view it as okay just because they're part of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that really does need to be, that needs awareness, that needs to be talked about as well. Because people will just let them slide just because, oh, you can say this, and that because you are this, and that. No, that's not the case at all.
There's enough people that hate us outside of our community that we don't need to fight with each other. For reasons that are just over the top, for no reason.
Being complicit is being an accomplice. Say something. If you see something, say something, and I'm such an advocate about that. Yes?
I think the problem is that a lot of this infighting is right from outside sources.
I am so sorry. I am
sorry. I think a lot of this infighting is right from outside sources, seeing the power of like this art form and the community surrounding it, and then realizing that if you attack the lowest denominator, if you attack the like how the internet is run by like 50 people at the core of it.
So,
if you take one of them out, all of a sudden everything else comes crumbling down.
yeah.
And I also think that like part of that needs to start with letting disabled people like have critical access to space as well, because they're some of the most bottom communities going on.
Yeah. Something that so my degree is in poli-sci and communications, and something that was used as a tactic to segregate POC people from being able to like communally be against each other is in-system fighting. And that's where you see that kind of relaying in modern day, where like people will start infights just to start drama so they can have control and power, because whoever has the most cards in their hand is the winner. And so it's just being able for us to still have that reality check within us that's like, this is coming from an outside source. Does this, and then like answering the 3 questions. Does it bother your morals? Does it bother yourself? Does it put you in danger? Should you say something? And if you're asking yourself, should I say something? You should say something.
Yeah, I think like also a lot of people get away with like some really awful stuff in this community, and like all of the communities, especially in the queer community. Like obviously I'm white, so like I understand that like being queer does not mean that I'm not incapable of like other forms of oppression and people. So like there are a lot of people that see being queer and being a drag performer, especially nowadays, as like getting a free pass from the infighting. So like if you don't stop the infighting, it's still just not going to happen.
Something that I clock a lot of drag performers on is the use of AAVE and the use of like cultural appropriation, and they say, well, I'm gay, or I've done my time, or I grew up X, and it's like, no, you haven't, because you are not black, period. And it is using your voice as somebody who is white with power, in a position of power, even with your queerness, you still hold a position of power within that community over somebody like me, who's a person of color, and like, there's been a lot of times where like, I don't feel safe talking to people on staff or anywhere because I'm like, I'm not white, so they're immediately going to start asking me questions about what I did wrong. So it's being able to take your place as a person who is white and being like, I know this is wrong, so it is my job to clock people. And that is what I do to support those in my community, is if I hear people saying comments that are unsavory or doing things that are unsafe, I understand that my place with my position of privilege needs to be saying something, and like checking yourself and being able to be checked on your own, because sometimes you overstep your boundaries, and sometimes it's like, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, but this is not the right place or time. Being able to be like, you know what, yeah, you're right, because you, at the end of the day, this is affecting you directly. I'm just trying to elevate a voice, and if it's not the right time, not the right place, you said it. Any other questions? Yes.
Kind of 2 or 3, because I was sitting there kind of thinking about how important is sewing, and then how important is your outfit? Because you can come out in like different types, like how RuPaul says, I don't want to see any HM shit. We can still come out in HM stuff.
Honestly, as somebody who has worked a lot with costume commissioners, I can sew, I just don't sew to the level that I would like to put on stage. So if I need to fix something, or if I'm in a real pinch, I can make something for myself. For the most part, I do like to rely on other people that do it better than me, because I like paying my friends to do things for me. If your friend is good at making music mixes for you, pay them. If your friend is good at doing wigs, pay them. If your friend is really good at social media and you want them to run your page for you, pay them. There's no shame in my mind asking your friends to help you out, especially if it's something that they like doing and they're good at it. But if you do so, it's just going to be a benefit to you. You're going to have the ability to not only make your own costumes, but you can also repair costumes. There's so many things that are available online that are great pieces to start out with. Like what I like to do when I'm costuming for something that I don't really necessarily know what it's gonna look like, I'll start off with pieces that'll kind of match. So I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna do like red for this. So I'll have like a red top and a red bottom, and I'll start like rhinestoning it. But it's not necessarily like, I don't know.
I know we've had.
It's dry in here, we're sorry.
Me too.
My sinus is killing me.
I know, I'm allergic to spring,
I'm trying so hard, y'all.
I got real bad
We're in
allergies.
these streets.
I came from Kentucky. It's like cold there still, so goodness. You know what? I'm just gonna pass. I'm just gonna need a minute.
Next question. That's you in the back.
Yes. So a lot of people that are detractors and they have just a general philosophical issue with the LGBT sort of presence, and you'll hear a lot of basically absurd arguments that are unbelievably negative, highly charged, and the idea is I can make lazy, terrible statements about you, and then you'll of course want to defend yourself with answers that are huge, take lots of effort and nuance and grand discussions with these tiny little arguments. So what's the way to deal with these people that make these short little soundbite, tiny little insults and they're just doing this and they're bad and they're trying to do this to kids and these sort of ignorant things that sound good when you don't think about them, and then they require effort-filled answers.
Something that I pride myself with every day as somebody who has borderline personality disorder and is affected by how people perceive me every day. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just keep doing what you're doing. And I think that stands for something in this economy that we are in that's like, drag is getting harder and harder. So now it's doing the work, because people can talk all day, babes, but they're not going to the polls like you are. They're not going to their town meetings and being like, we need to do something. Because all you gotta do is just keep your peace, keep doing what you gotta do and stay focused on that prize, because they're gonna say things to throw you off, but if your eye is on that prize to make sure that you're creating a safe space for someone and you're doing what you have to do, then those words aren't gonna matter.
And also, are they worth your emotional energy? Are they worth your time and your peace? That's piggyback off of what they're saying. But like, some of these people are just saying things like that just to get a rise out of you, and they're just doing it just to irritate you. They want to get you mad. They want to prove that you are angry and unhinged. And if you give them that reaction, is it worth it for you? Like, you can always just walk away if it's a situation where it's just some random person at Walmart telling you. But drag queens are crazy. You can be like, okay, bye, great.
That's
They,
nice.
they don't matter to you. But if they are somebody that you do have to interact with on a regular basis, there are ways you can shut them down in a way that doesn't take any of your energy or any of your peace. Just saying, you have that opinion, and I don't want to talk about that anymore. And if they want to keep talking about it, be like, I love you, or I respect you. If they're like a family member, just be like, I love you, I respect you. I do not want to talk about this. Change the subject, walk out of the room. I know that we've been trained, especially like, we're trained to like respect our elders and stuff, but if they're not giving you peace, it's not worth it to just let them go. It's not good for you.
Yeah. It's very much hard. It's hard to be the bigger person because you wanna bite back. But what I have found is that the dog that barks the loudest is often the losing one.
You're not going to change their opinion because they just want to be angry.
Yeah.
They're doing it because they want to see you get angry because they're angry.
Yeah.
They want to be at the same level.
Yeah. They want to have fire. Are you in the corner?
To add to that, I know that one of the things I try to do in one of the lifestyles that I have is education. So when I have a public platform that I'm going to be responding on, I try to keep it level and not really fire hard. But
focusing on creating a story for people that may be reading the comments or maybe reading after the fact to give them an ideal view of, hey, they really made sense on what they were saying. I try to pick and choose my battles because I am prone to going overboard. Thanks so much. But it really helps sometimes that, like, if you see, hey, this might be an opportunity to create a positive message, to step out there and actually leave that giant wall of paragraph. But you're not doing it for the person or at the person that made this nice little, one-liner. You're doing it for the people that are going to read afterwards and go like, look at how crazy the one-liner sounds. Like, they just sound like an angry, mean person. Why should I listen to their comment? And sometimes that's what, kind of helps. And I know that I've seen in the lifestyle that I do tend to do that with. There have been occasions where I've had people comment afterwards like, wow, that made sense. Or like, hey, thanks for the insight. So it's kind of nice to see things like that are changing, and it helps.
If you have the emotional energy.
Yeah, it helps prevent that back and forth. And then, like on Facebook, I just block them.
Yeah, block them.
I'm a blocking.
Keep your block hand strong. Because you know how many weird DMs I get from people just on my performer profile constantly?
A lot.
It's weird.
Really weird sometimes.
People ask weird stuff. They're like, can you send me your eyelashes after the show? I'm like, absolutely
They're
not.
valid, I guess, but not that kind of way. But yeah, keeping your piece safe, focused on the prize, like eyes on the prize, focus on you, focus on your piece, and protect what matters to you and your morals and values. Because if you remain unbothered and you remain focused, then they're gonna snap, and they're gonna snap, but they're gonna run out of energy at one point.
If you're not giving them anything, they're not gonna keep going because it's pointless for them.
Yeah. Yeah, big wig.
So going back to production for a moment, I asked the producers of the show, I know that you personally look out for your performers. However, a lot of people are novices and they're very wrapped up in, oh my gosh, I just got my first show, yay. And they don't think about the red flags of producers and people putting on shows. So what are some of the red flags that they need to look out for?
Red flags that you should be looking out for is their pay for the show. Are they offering you a hotel room? Have you seen things about this producer before? Have you been able to research the con and where it is? Because I know also things are getting real scary and you should be looking up where you're going in some of these states. Other red flags to look for is behavior, personality. Is this director really willing to work with you on extending your deadlines? Are they having meetings? Are they having safety calls? Are they talking beforehand? Do they have a group chat? I know for us, we have meetings before the show, like a month in advance. We make a group 2 months in advance. We consistently are in communication with everyone, making sure, what can we provide for you? What do you need? What can we make sure that it is accessible for you if you need to have it? And if producers aren't doing that as a bare minimum, then there's something wrong with that producer, in my opinion.
Also, from like a casting standpoint, I personally do not ever want to see a show that is all white people. That is not, it's not okay. If you look at your cast list and it is all white people, that is a red flag. There is something wrong. Somebody has a problem. They are either blatantly or subliminally not making choices that are inclusive, and that is a huge red flag, and it's something that can affect the way that you perceive the situation. Also, body diversity, I think, is very important. If you're looking at a show and it's all skinny people, that doesn't read well. Or if it's all skinny people and one token chunky person, you know that is, it's not good. You want to see diverse casting, and you want to see people that are actively trying to make the situation as fun as well as professionally uplifting as possible.
Yeah, asking whether your car's extended warranty. Additionally, if someone wants money from you for an application fee, community. Some shows may do that. Some shows may require like you to get a deposit on something, but always look into it beforehand and make sure you know what you're getting into. Do as much research as you physically can, and then ask around. Ask who you know has worked with them in the past. Ask them how their show went. Make small talk, make conversation, make connections, and network.
Look through their Instagram and see other people that they've tagged. If they haven't tagged anybody, that's also kind of a red flag. But you want to look, you want to see that they're engaging the people, and then if you know anybody or there's somebody that you could know, maybe a mutual friend, feel free to DM them, see if they have like any things to say about it.
And that's another big thing about this community is that everybody talks. So it's being able to get those resources and making a wise decision for yourself. And sometimes you do make bad decisions. I've worked with directors who've literally taken all of the money from my merchandise and have kept it. You should never, and that was my mistake, and that was a learning experience, and that's part of this industry is being able to take that learning experience and be like, oh, this happened, I know not to work with this person, and now I can tell my friends, please do not work with this performer or this producer or this person because of XYZ reasons. And usually producers don't, if it's a producing team, we don't do that unless it's like an egregious issue.
And one thing that I think I would love to see change in the performance community in general is that a lot of stuff is kind of a whisper network when it comes to things. I'm not personally like, we should call out everybody out loud for like my things that they could work on if you haven't had a conversation with them, if there's been like problems. If they are racist or they did something really bad, call them out, call them out, do it. But if it's something that like, you know, is a personal thing, I feel like people should work through that. But in the same breath, the whisper network doesn't work for new performers. And that's something that I've noticed, and I've seen a lot of people get burned by that kind of situation. Because if you're a newer performer, you book a show, you get super hyped, you're excited that you're in it, you unknowingly book with somebody that has a really bad reputation, and then you won't get cast in anything because they think that you guys are tight. So just trying to like find people that are trustworthy in your community and, you know, ask them questions, because it sucks when people get taken advantage of, and unfortunately it is a lot of new performers. But just keeping your wits about you, and you know, it's great to get super hyped that something's happening and super excited that it feels like the thing that you really wanted to do is finally coming true. But also just make sure that you're checking everything twice and keeping a solid head, because you just don't want to get hurt. And unfortunately, there's people out there that they will take advantage of that.
All right, we are in our final 15. Question? Yes.
I wanted to rewind, if that's okay, back to when you were saying when people are showing you hate or giving you discouraging actions or words, keeping your eye on the prize and stuff helps. But my question is, how, I'm sorry.
It's okay, take your time.
How do you manage to keep that mindset and when you're performing in areas or locations that may or may not be as drag friendly as you would hope?
So I have a story for you. I competed. Lottie and I are from Chicago, in case you didn't know. I competed at a Roscoe's drag race. And this was the Roscoe's. This is the one that a lot of legendary queens come in. Shaky Lay, we had Sasha Colby, we had Anitra, everybody goes there. And I had went there, and I did one of my routines that like is probably one of my most asked for routines. And I got not a single clap in that audience. They were silent. I made maybe $2, and somebody stole those $2 out of my bag. And it was a really discouraging night for me. It was really, really, really hard. And it was me being able to be like, man, this really was hard. But you know what? Maybe I needed, like I take it with a grain of salt and I laugh as I needed to be humbled, because comedy is how I cope with things. But for some people, that's not the same. And it's like taking those discouraging moments, make the encouraging moments feel to me so much more worthwhile, because I have come so far in my career, and I'm only 25. I've only been doing this for what, like 3-4 years now? I've come so far in my career that I'm able to be like, wow, I'm producing shows at like conventions I went to when I was like 11. And now I'm coming to these cons and like, I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm keeping my peace and minding my business because I know at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. These people did not like me, and maybe I wasn't their flavor of drag. Maybe maybe it was because I was AFAB. Maybe it was because I was a clown. Who knows? But that's not for me to know. What I do know is that this audience was not receptive, and that lit a fire under me to be like, well, what can I do to make them cheer? Because I want it.
But also, if you're in a situation where something feels unsafe and you do not feel safe as a person, you can go. You can leave. That producer might not want to book you again, but your safety is paramount. Your safety is really important. And if that producer did not make you feel safe in that space, that is a problem on them. And that is something that they need to look into. If you're performing like at a bar or something out of state, if you have like a buddy or a partner to go with you, when you're traveling, try to do that. Yeah. Like I usually try to travel with a friend, it's usually them. Because it's number one, it's a safety thing. You know, we're queer people going into situations where we might be driving through places.
And we're also AFAB.
Yes, we're AFAB. We have things stacked against us. Mm-hmm. And I drive a little pink car, and
I'm brown.
But it's like, you know, your safety is paramount. You know, you might want to make that coin, you might want to get that clout, but at the end of the day, it is okay to protect yourself.
And if you don't, like, I had a gig in Missouri that I would have been going down there by myself, and I don't know if I've said this enough, but I am not white. My last name is Urania, and I have been pulled over for racially charged cops before, and it's been very scary, and in a southern red state, it was very scary, and this gig was going to give me $30, and it was a festival, and like I was like, oh my gosh, this is like my first festival I've ever been accepted into, IRL, and then I had to make that judgment call that was like, no, actually, I will not be safe, and your life is paramount. If you do not feel safe, do not go. I cannot stress Lottie's words enough. Your safety is paramount, and it is upon the producers to make sure that our staff feels safe.
And if you really want to fix that bridge afterward, you can send an email. You can have that conversation. You might not be able to fix it, and that's what it is. But your safety is more important than doing a show.
Yeah. Always. Yeah, pink little.
So, as I said before, I do drag, I'm also 17, and I've talked to like a couple of the drag queens before, because friends with some, and from what I know about like the industry, like I know that not all spaces are like this, but like for the majority, especially like you know in small areas, like you know that aren't as like you know urban or like big, like New York, Chicago, like whatever. You know, usually most drag spaces are 21 plus, so it's really hard for anyone that's under that age to sort of start.
Well, we know about Sugar and Spice, right? They turned 21 during the pandemic, and they didn't do any bar shows, and they got to be in RuPaul's Drag Race.
And Luxor in London said it really well too. During the pandemic, we weren't going to clubs, so social media platforms are so useful because that still gets your name out there and it makes people want to book you. And then when you're like, oh, I'm not 21 yet, but I'll be 21 on X day, you're already getting gigs, babes. Like they're casting you and putting you in that mind. So like,
and there's all ages pride events that are booking. If you reach out to those queens in your area and you like their stuff, you let them know. You can find ways to do it. It's harder for sure. I'm not going to say it's not, but it is. But you can do it.
And two, because you didn't answer the one about how important your outfit is.
Oh.
And other one is, how can you determine a good drag name? Like, I guess another question was, has your name, like, from the beginning when you started, changed throughout now?
Yes. I just changed my name. I used to be Heather Lore, and then I changed to Thotty Biscotti, and now recently I went to Haichu because my drag has evolved with me, and I've embraced more of my androgyny, and I thought that Thotty Biscotti held a lot of femininity behind it, and that wasn't the life that I wanted to pursue. So I switched over to Haichu, and my outfit, honestly, it's pretty important to me. Like, my costume really makes me feel confident and like makes me feel like I'm in my persona, you know? So like I try to take care of my things, but sometimes it doesn't work because I'm a little clown on this stage.
I was gonna say, my name originally was spelled differently. Lottie is from Princess and the Frog, Charlotte. I love her. But all l'Ouest is a French term. It's like a pun in French that basically means they're to the west, but it means Americans kind of being off. And I thought that was really funny because I was pretentious. And then people kept spelling it with a Q because it's L''OUEST. And I was like, I'm not going on a quest. I mean, I am now, but I'm not going on a quest. I really hate people spelling my name wrong. And they'll like print it on posters and I'll be like, that's not how you spell it. So I had to Americanize it to ALAWEST. Now people think it's like a reference to Mae West because I'm curvy, which is fine. I don't like my name that much, but I made merch, so we live.
My name hasn't, I guess, really evolved since when I got into accounting, I'll say, and the person I was working with at the accounting firm said, hey, why did you choose the name Legend? Like, that sounds really full of myself. No, from Legend of Zelda. Yeah, I'm not getting that from the name you're suggesting here. So I was like, well, let's just make it legendary, like a dungeon pillaging reference sort of thing. As for the outfit, we've had performers come in and absolutely all thrifted outfits, but I think there needs to be like a key piece for you to get behind, and whether it's to harken back earlier, put up your armor and get into your character, get into your space, and let the audience know you're here and this is how you can serve it up. But I feel like if you really have the heart and soul to put into it and like you can deliver, you can make any outfit work.
Yeah, if I don't have my false eyelashes on or my highlight, that's my armor. Like, I can make any outfit work, but I gotta have tons of blinding highlight and really big false lashes.
All right, we got 3 minutes left, so let's do a lightning round. You?
All right, so in the other questions, I kind of thought of something. So I have a child, they're about to turn 9. So if I'm starting to do drag, I guess, since we're talking about safety, with everything that's been going on with drag and LGBTQ communities becoming under attack, as drag performers yourself, how do you keep your family and friends safe? Because have you ever had anybody come after your loved ones for your performance?
I'm allergic to children, so.
Yes, actually. I recently had a issue where safety became an issue for the people that I live with because of a situation that escalated online. And how I keep my loved ones safe is I step forward and take that accountability and say, listen, the problem that you have is with me, not them. If you take them into it, like, I don't like taking the legal route because I personally am not
CAB.
You know.
It's also a good idea, again, like I mentioned emails, making a performer email earlier, making a separate account on Instagram and stuff, on Facebook, and keeping them separate as much as you feel comfortable with. That's one really good way. It's like, because my family knows that I perform, but they don't necessarily see everything because they don't follow that and they don't really get attached to it. Yes.
Also, practice safe posting. Never when you're there, always after. Minimum 20 minutes after you've left, post it up. That way you can be away and you can be safe. And it makes it much harder when people try to triangulate you to do unsavory things and so forth.
All right, Axel.
I was wondering, because I know like you guys are fabulous, you were tipping you. So how does the tipping work? Like, do you guys share it at the end? Does it go, like when you collect it during performance, does it go to the performer? I'm curious.
It depends on the show, but we chose to do a tip pool for this show so that it works better for a convention setting anyway, just because of how people are tipping, so that we do give out equal amounts to every performer plus our dollar daddy and our house manager.
It's very, like, some people will do, you get what you get, like, for our Mantis Queen who performed, they got what they got because they only did the one act with us, whereas the rest of the performers were doing two, but they also got the crown, the sash, and the spot on the show. So there was like a reward for that as like a debut performance, you know. Mantis, you had a question?
Actually, not really a question, more kind of answer slash getting back to what you were saying about how do you, not being 21, how do you get to put yourself out there, get experience in the drag world. I just wanted to say, from experience with yesterday, I did not know I was going to really be attending the drag event, but just go to cons that are having drag events, drag panels. I was randomly pulled on stage by our lovely host over here, and from there it just kind of falls on your lap. So, talking that, sorry.
No, I was going to say, I got something to chime in too, that goes along with it.
However, we are 1 minute until time, as much as I do want to keep kikiing like this.
Anybody who hasn't asked a question, have any questions?
Unless we'll give that closing remarks and set you free.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Have you seen, since RuPaul's Drag Race is airing, have you seen costumes elevated or gone down since like?
I think drag is elevated to a point where it's almost like mainstream media, like how cosplay is nowadays, and everyone thinks that this is their chance. This is how they're going to get famous.
Does it get tiring for you? Like seeing that, or like?
No, because I grew up with cosplayers who, like, Katsucon was like the gig. You went to Katsucon to get famous, and like when it didn't happen, it would break your heart. I think there needs to be a lot more nuance and conversation of like, oh no, like, you may not actually get noticed at this con, but you're here to have a good time, and you need to take that into account for yourself, that this is for your own joy. If it is no longer giving you joy, you need to stop it.
Yeah, don't force yourself to do something that's just hurting you.
And with that, we are at time, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to both of our shows. I'm Haichu.
I'm Nadia. And if you want to follow me or like any of us on social media, I'm at Lottie Alawest, LOTTIEALAWEST.
I'm at Haichucos, HIGHCHUCOS. On Instagram, you can be friends with us and talk to us more and ask us questions. But thank you guys so much for supporting us this weekend. We really hope to come back next year. So email the con and tell them that you want to. Thank you.